Alright, ladies and gents, it's Mr. Huber74 here. I work on a lot of stuff in my shop. As you know, I got my own little channel. I picked this gem up real cheap and didn't have any kind of a powertrain in it. So I built it the new one. 60 over 305 old school style. Big rowdy camshaft, etc. I'll fire that up for you for another time. This thing's a good time. It's fun to drive, but that's not what we're here for today. What we're here for today is this. Now, I'm going to explain to you guys why you do not go out and just buy one of these side-by-sides without having a proper mechanic go through it for you. A friend of mine and a neighbor brought me this thing and asked me to look it over. Now, he already bought it, and he bought it for $6 grand, $6,000 for a used side-by-side. Okay, it's got some decent tires on it. Not going to say anything bad about that. So the guy hacked it up and put in a header and a little FMF style pipe, and he's got some decent Fox, you know, adjustable shocks in the rear, etc. Okay, all right, I'll go with that. Look down there, the whole front of the motor is soaked in oil. It's leaking oil like a pig. Okay, my buddy is super happy with this thing. He thinks it's the best thing he ever bought. I told him don't do it. Did it anyway. So tells me I need to fix it because he wanted to take it out this weekend. The previous owner took all the seat belts out. Now, if you got a four-wheel drive 4x4, or excuse me, off-road ATV, UTV vehicle, okay, you need to have seat belts in it. Yeah, you can't ride it on the street, but you don't want to get tossed out of this thing when you're rolling around in the mud. It'll get you killed. As you can see, the seats are ready to fall out, but that's not even the worst part. I'm trying to find the little seat release here for you. You're gonna love this. Look at this hack job wiring. The seat is literally sitting on the wiring. This is the wiring that the guy did. He ran it up along the frame, which I'm fine with. Zip tied it up, did all this. And then we've got this hack job. Okay? The light works sometimes. Well, gee, I wonder why. Okay? So my buddy brings me this thing and says, hey, I want a hitch. I want a 2,500 pound tow hitch on the front of this thing. Okay? That's fine. He got me the anchor plate. He went to Harbor Freight. He got a little 2,500 pound winch. Fine. Great. No problem. I'll put it on for you. So I got to start taking the lights off, right? And it literally fell out. Look. The snap connectors are seized because I didn't put any kind of anti-seize lubricant or dielectric grease or anything in there. The lights are loose. By the way, those are the factory Polaris lights. They were installed at the dealer where the winch is supposed to go. But it gets better. So I'm underneath it. I start taking the skid plate off. Okay? And I told him, I said, this thing was rode hard and put away wet. He said, what do you mean? I said, there's nothing but zip ties holding the skid plate on. All right, well, you can fix that. Sure, just add it to the bill. I'll fix that for you, too. While I'm under there, I go to get up. And I grab a hold of one of the axles. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see anything wrong with this axle? Let me show you. Watch, you ready for this? Look, look, look. Okay? So I was like, bro, at the very least, that front diff needs to get completely rebuilt. Okay. Add it to the bill. You see these axles throwing grease? Look at this. So it needs axles and a front differential. It gets better. So I jack it up to start pulling it apart to get the proper part numbers so I can order up the correct parts, because different axle ratios mean different differentials, right? Check this out. You ready for this? Check this wheel out. Nice knobby tires, right? Look. It's got no fucking wheel bearings in the front. They're gone. The only thing holding this wheel on is the damn brake caliper. And he expects this to be done in 24 hours. I said, brother, you're going to be waiting a week for me to get the parts in. This isn't something I go down the street to Advance or AutoZone or any one of the retail chains, O'Reilly's, and go pick up a freaking oh, that's great. And it's missing lug nuts. It's got missing lug nuts too. What a piece of shit. Anyway, he paid $6,000 for this thing. And sure, it runs and it goes in gear and you can drive it on a trailer. But would I take it down to any kind of a meet or mud run or anything? No, not unless I want to kill myself. Absolutely not. Friends, the door, I took it for a test drive. I went down my driveway, across and down my other driveway, which is only about 300 feet over there, and came across my yard. And I could barely steer this thing because I put it in four-wheel drive to operate it. So he thinks handing me his cheese dick winch, okay? The climber manual is going to get this thing ready for this weekend. 48 hours from now. I called him up and I said, hey, bud, you're about 2 weeks out before you ride this thing. Well, the season will be over. Should have taken me with you when you went to look at it. You got the best deal on Facebook Marketplace. You got robbed on Facebook Marketplace. I wouldn't have spent more than $3,000 for this thing on a good day if I was feeling generous. Maybe I'm chintzy, maybe I'm cheap, but $6,000? He could have bought a good used one from a dealership for like $2,000 more than that, and everything would have been done. It wouldn't have had axles and differentials and front wheel bearings that all need to be replaced. Look at the amount of movement in this. That's a solid 2 to 3 inches of movement in this front wheel. Not to mention, when I drop the skid plate, the cross member that goes from one side of the frame to the other is bent all to hell. That's why the skid plate's held on with zip ties. Because this guy beat the dog shit out of this thing and then saw my buddy coming and said, here comes a sucker. Let me sell it to him for $6,000. Okay? This is the definition of more money than brains. Okay? I love him. He's a friend of mine. I've been friends with him for 10 years. But he does this stuff all the time. He has more money than he has brains. And he says, well, I called you. I said, did you call me to come with you to go look at this? No, you just showed up at my house with it and said, look at my beautiful new toy. And I shook my head and went back in the house. Okay? And it's not like I don't have enough work to do. My garage is so busy. I'm 4 or 5 cars deep right now. I'm not even talking about my boat. Let's not even look at my boat. I haven't taken that out since last season because I've been too busy raising kids and rebuilding the entire front end, including the subframe of that for my wife. Okay? And that white truck for my son. And building an engine to put in that Charger that's in the garage. You know why? Also for my son. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, if the point of this message is, if you see a quote-unquote, great deal on Facebook Marketplace, and you have a friend that's any kind of a mechanic with half a brain, please buy them lunch and take them with you so they will look it over to make sure you don't get robbed like my buddy. Because this piece of shit should get towed to the yard. Or you should go scream at the guy and get his money back. It's got 2 inches of play in the steering wheel before the friggin' wheel even engages. The whole steering rack is wiped out. It needs axles. It needs a front differential. I'm not even going to try to rebuild that because the cup is probably so wiped out that if I bought a rebuild kit, there'd be so much slop in it, it wouldn't be worth rebuilding. So he's going to get a whole new differential. And he thinks I'm doing all this work cheap. I've got to pull the whole front suspension out of this thing. Tires got to come off, okay? There's the differential right there. See it right there? Right back there. That little round unit right there. I'm surrounding with my finger. Okay? So you can see everything's got to come out to get this differential out. And I have to pull the differential before I can order the parts. You know why? Different part numbers for different gear ratios. Yeah. Yeah. That's the story of my life. Look, I don't have enough to do. I hope he understands that he is getting bumped the front of the line for all this to get done. But ain't no friends and family discount on this. This is a headache I do not want to have today or this weekend. And now I got to rebuild it. I got to order parts. It's going to take a week to 2 weeks for the parts to come in. I got to listen to him calling me every day. My parts in, and my parts in. I'm going to have them shipped to his house. I'm going to ship the parts to his house and make him bring them to me while this thing's torn down, sitting in my yard. And while this is torn apart, sitting in my yard, waiting on all the parts to get here, I'm going to fix my son's white truck, which he has a brand new transmission in because we bought it with a bad transmission. And it almost killed me driving it home because the rear axle, the bolt, the pin was sheared off in the leaf spring. So as I'm going down the road, the back end of the truck, over 35 miles an hour, is literally just fishtailing all over the road. I had to pull over and have it towed to the shop here. My little Isuzu, I got to put a clutch in. A little gray Isuzu truck, if anybody's interested. That is a 1990 Isuzu pickup. 5-speed manual, 2.3 4-cylinder. I did the Weber carb conversion on it, so it's reliable. It starts every time. Runs great. Clutch is wiped out. Gotta put a clutch in it. I got the clutch. I just don't have time. And so I'm gonna make the time because those two trucks gotta move. And that big old Dodge Ram all the way back in front of that little Isuzu back there has a 5.9 in it that has to come out. And the truck's going to the junkyard. And all this scrap metal in the back of my big blue truck, the big blue Chevy with the brand new motor and TH475 transmission. Yeah, that's my pulling truck. It's going to take all that scrap metal. And it's going to haul that big old Dodge to the scrap yard. We're not even going to talk about the motorcycle that I painted and tore down. And I still have to put back together again and rebuild the carburetor because it's been sitting too long. Yeah, but he wants to get bumped to the front of the line for this piece of shit. That he spent, in my opinion, 3 times what he should have paid for it. Yeah, it runs. And it's got some aftermarket parts on it. But it's also beat to hell. The doors flop open when you hit bumps. You can see right here. You can see I can stick half my finger in that. That weld's about to snap off. That's from the doors banging on the where it meets up to the door frame there. My buddy had to put a new latch on it because the door wouldn't even stay closed. None of the lights work because, you know, butchered wiring harness. So that's a good time. Yeah, that's where we're at. So I'll keep you updated, YouTube, when I start tearing this thing apart. I'll let you know what the next step is. Look at this. Trying to get my camera to focus. There you go. Big old notch in the door frame from that rubbing. This thing wasn't abused at all. Alright, stay tuned.